Okay, good afternoon, everyone. It is 4 p.m. on the West Coast side. It is 7 p.m. on the East Coast side, and we are so excited to have you to join one of our NHPA Student Webinar series. We're mostly excited to have not just Dr. Martinez, who's here with us today, but also some amazing student leaders from across the nation to be able to talk about how we are going to make the most out of pharmacy school and how we're going to get you to your career. So we're going to jump right into it because we have a great presentation ready for all of you. Before I even tell you about myself, we do want to go over some housekeeping rules. One of the things is that we want you all to know that this webinar is being recorded. It will be posted on our website in the next week or so. Please make sure to mute all of your microphones. If not, we will help you do that. We do request that our participants today modify your name. If you go above your picture or your video, there's 3 little dots. You could click on those 3 little dots, add to your name what level of school you're in. Is that a P1, your first year, P2, or P3? Just so we have a sense to see who is here with us today. We encourage questions. Please add them to the chat box. So either all of us could see, you could direct it directly to myself or to Dr. Martinez, and we'd be happy to answer them either as we go along or at the very end. And we will have a question and answer session for about 10 to 15 minutes at the very end. I do want to remind everyone who we are. We are the National Hispanic Pharmacists Association. We are here to empower Hispanic pharmacists and other members to improve the health of Hispanic populations in collaboration with the public and private sector partners. We do have a vision to be the lead pharmacy organization for improving the health of Hispanic populations in the United States. So if you have friends who are not members of NHPA, please encourage them to join. Please visit our website for information on membership. So without further ado, I do want to kick it off by explaining and also introducing the speakers for today. I'll start off with myself. My name is Lisa Marie Serrano. I am part of the executive board for the National Hispanic Pharmacists Association, serving as your secretary. Also on the board of directors, serving as your programs committee chair. By training, I am an emergency medicine pharmacist. So what that means is I went to pharmacy school at UHCC School of Pharmacy, did 2 years of residency to specialize in emergency medicine at Huntington Hospital in Pasadena, California. Since then, I then transitioned into administration. Didn't have any formal training in administration, but through my experiences in pharmacy school, experiences in residency, it trained me for this experience that I have now as a manager at City of Hope National Medical Center in Duarte. I oversee the ambulatory and infusion clinics for this institution. So I'll go ahead and pass it on to Dr. Martinez.
Hello, everyone. Sorry about that. I was muted there. Well, I'm really excited to be here today. My name is Briget Martinez. I am a pediatric clinical specialist here at DHR Health, located down in South Texas, very, very close to the Texas-Mexico border. I'm actually an assistant professor with the University of Houston College of Pharmacy. I've been practicing pharmacy down in Texas for close to 15 years now. And so some of my, my training started off with the, actually a graduate of the University of Houston College of Pharmacy. And then I moved down to South Texas to work in the NICU. So I did that for a while, traveled back up to Houston, where I got some training in management there at Kelsey-Seybold Ambulatory Clinic, and then came back down to the Valley to further continue my work in pediatrics, working in the pediatric ICU. I'm excited to be here today to learn from you all, and hopefully we can have a good conversation and exchange of knowledge. So at this time, I'll go ahead and hand it over to Joanna.
Thank you, Dr. Martinez. Thank you, Dr. Serrano, as well, for having us here. I really appreciate it. So my name is Joanna. I'm from MCPHS University in Worcester, Massachusetts. I'm currently a student in the accelerated 3-year program, and I'm in my final year right now, so I'm doing my APPEs. I'm hoping to hopefully apply for residency and get in and become an ambulatory care pharmacist. That's my current goal. And so far, I've been trying to make the most out of my time in pharmacy school by trying to get involved where I can and really using my experiences, whether it's through rotations or my part-time jobs as an intern at a hospital pharmacy and a community pharmacy, to really learn and try to build on my clinical knowledge. And really using the resources that my school has for me. I know as a first gen Latina, like it was pretty overwhelming for me at first. But I've been really trying to use the resources at hand to build my resume and also network with people as well. And I also realized that there were no Hispanic organizations at my school. So that's why I took the initiative to try to create a student chapter of NHPA at my school with a good team that is now my first e-board. So that's pretty much it about me.
Hello, everybody. Thank you, Dr. Serrano and Dr. Martinez for having me. My name is Arturo Herrera II. I am a third-year student, P3, in a four-year program. So I'm a class of 23 here at the University of North Texas Health Science Center at Fort Worth College of Pharmacy. I am co-president along with Brendan Arredondo here at our school. We also are founders of the organization. So similar to Joanna said, we entered our school and didn't seem to there definitely wasn't a Hispanic organization. And so we looked around and reached out to an existing chapter, and they helped provide information of how to start one. And we reached out to the national side of it, and we got it going. So we're very proud of that. I would like to do community pharmacy. I have background in community pharmacy, and I really like making a difference in your community and help and making that impact on people's lives. So some of the ways that I have helped to go down that path is basically volunteering locally with NHPA and a nonprofit here in Fort Worth. We were able to participate in a community pop-up clinic, like different health clinics, along with city councilmen here in Fort Worth. So that was really awesome to see turnout and helping people that way, along with just doing vaccine clinics, and especially with COVID, providing information. I think our demographics, there's a ton of opportunity to provide information for people. And that's pretty much it. I have my background in community, and my fourth year will be doing rotations and seeing all the different aspects, but I like the personable face-to-face contact with people that you get to have.
Hello guys, my name is Nohemi Martinez. I'm at the University of Georgia College of Pharmacy. I'm a third-year pharmacy student in a four-year program, class of 2023. I am the current president of NHPA. This is our second year at our school. Last year was our trial year, so I co-founded this organization, or the student chapter, with Brian Jimenez, one of my classmates. My goal is to work in a hospital setting, and I feel like I've kind of gone back and forth about working community versus hospital, and I think like first year can be very overwhelming trying to decide which organizations to join. So first year, since I felt like there wasn't really a place where I fit in, I met Brian, and then we kind of researched and we saw NHPA was out there. So it kind of felt like our home. So we felt like we needed to bring it to our university. So I think this organization has helped me make a lot of great connections with the community and with other classmates. So I'm just really happy to be here.
Hi, everyone. My name is Gilberto Pena, and I just want to thank Dr. Serrano and Dr. Martinez again for having us. I'm currently a second-year pharmacy student in a traditional four-year program at the University of Southern California. I am the president of the newly founded student chapter of NHPA at USC. In terms of my future career goals in pharmacy, I've always had a passion and interest for administration. So hopefully I could get into a residency if I'm fortunate enough, and eventually enter a hospital administration and represent pharmacy in that way. So far, I'm the baby of this panel. Since I'm a second year, I don't have all the experiences that the other panelists do, but I've been, participating in a lot of, like Arturo mentioned, a lot of vaccine clinics with COVID, striking our community. I'm also an inpatient intern at a hospital in downtown LA as well, which has, provided me with ample experiences going into the career that I want to go into. And I kind of have the same story as everyone else for why, we decided to start NHPA at USC, just because having been, being located in Los Angeles, which is, dominated by a lot of a prevalent Hispanic community. I thought it was really important to create, a space for USC students to be able to, connect with all the interests that we have and kind of mold them into one and provide, care to patients in our community. So that's just a short spiel on myself.
All right, well, thank you so much. We wanted to have a panel of students to be able to represent all of you that are out there that make up NHPA student chapters, and also from all ranges, either P2 to P3, ready to graduate at a non-traditional four-year college, who Joanna goes to a three-year institution, and be able to look at, where do you want to end up? What career do you want, and how will you get there? If you're in your second year, if you're in your first year, what do you do now? What do you do in a couple of years? And what if you don't know? And how are you going to navigate that to be able to tell other people, this is exactly what I want to do when I finish pharmacy school? Or be okay with being able to say, I don't exactly know, but if I don't know, these are the tools, or these are the experiences that I want to get to help me figure that out. So in the world of pharmacy, there's quite a variety of careers that we could pick from. These are just a few. Some of the highlights that we've seen in our experiences, Dr. Martinez and myself, and we know that those that are in pharmacy school right now have their eyes set on these different experiences and where they want to end up. So we're going to try and help you navigate that to determine what you need to do now as a student and how to get you into these areas. So we're going to take you on a journey where we're going to look at traditional careers, non-traditional careers, and the cases where we're going to call it undeclared, where you don't exactly know what you would like to do. So let's start off with the traditional route. In the traditional route, you'll see that we have your most common scenarios where we're going to go into residency, we're going to get specialty training, maybe I'm going to go into community pharmacy. So we're going to talk about first year, second year, third year, and fourth year. I say and fourth year. Fourth year is grayed out because not everyone has a fourth year, such as Joanna. So let's start with first year. Any thoughts on, let's just pick one. We can start with residency.
So I think the biggest thing, especially if you're going to start thinking about residency, really keep your options open and try to do your best with school. I think that was what I really tried to focus on my first year, is really getting my grades up there, because one of the components that they really look at for competitive students is your grades. It's not the main thing, of course, but it's definitely something to keep in mind. So I think definitely understanding like how you study and how each professor like expects different things is really important for each class. So really setting yourself up for success in terms of grades can really help you keep your options open.
And I'd like to add more to what Joanna said. So she hit on the grades, which is, very important. But I think what a lot of us have heard, or me personally, I've heard from a lot of mentors and upperclassmen or people that oversee residency programs are, well-rounded students. And by that, I mean, extracurricular activities, things that, that you do outside of the classroom, right? So whether that be organizations such as NHPA, being involved in this is, an extracurricular activity. Stuff not even school related, like sports, for example. I'm really into sports. That's one thing that, hits home with me. But just being able to be a well-rounded individual, because at least one thing I've learned, although I'm far away from it, but one thing I've learned from what they look for in residency programs is not only how good you look on paper, but how good of a person you are. Are you personable? Are you a team player? Are you able to adapt and work with different personalities that you might not see eye to eye with, right? And the only way you could gain those experiences is more often not in the classroom, but outside of the classroom, interacting and working in teams with different groups of people. So that's one thing I would also add to a first year pharmacy student's point of view, what you could look into strengthening early on in your pharmacy career.
So to add on to what both of you guys have said about having good grades and being well-rounded, it's kind of good to find out some more information about what the responsibilities of a resident look like, because you kind of want to set kind of like a foundation before you become a resident. I know a lot from what I've heard from residents in some residency programs is they might have some research projects. So seeing if there's some research opportunities with professors at your school. And I know research can seem kind of daunting, especially if you don't know anything about research, but be open to talking to your faculty about that and letting them know, hey, I have no experience with research, but I want to know how to start a research project or help you with one, and kind of getting involved that way. Also, I think something that we all have in common that we're on, all of us on here, is that we all have some kind of leadership positions within NHPA. And that gives us kind of an opportunity to mentor other students. And I think that's something that residents have to do. Sometimes they have, other students on rotations. And I think this kind of being involved in an organization, having some leadership experience will give you an opportunity to be a mentor to underclassmen. So I think that's also important. And also try to get some exposure in whatever area you're interested in. So if you work in a hospital, or even if you don't work in a hospital, see if you can get some shadowing experience. And that'll not only get you some exposure to what you like, what you don't like, but you can also help start making some connections with other people.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think everything that's been said is spot on. And I wanted to wait to the end, be the last one, because it kind of rolls into the second year as well. Some people I've known did do this in first year, but if not, definitely I would think by second year. But a convention like mid-year, I think if you work long enough in pharmacy, you realize pharmacy is a small world. And so you get to meet people, you get to know who people are. And the earlier you can start making those connections, like what's already been said, is that's just the better for you. It's residency, it's a match, right? So there's more than just one part of it. So you have to match with this other entity, if you will. So just meeting them, having your grades, being a well-rounded person, being involved in organizations, you want to have all of that, but just getting to meet people face to face and just getting your name out there, I think the earlier you can start doing that is just better for you, for your chances.
Wow, I think you guys pretty much summed it up really well, hitting on just different points there with respect to residency. Some of the things that resonated, just to kind of recap, or just kind of maintaining your grades, keeping those competitive, the professionalism that you portray not only to your peers, but when you're out there actually doing your internships and doing your rotations as well. Research was something else that I heard from the panelists, which is actually really, really good as well. The other thing is taking that extra step and getting out there and shadowing in certain areas that you may be uncertain about. Those were some of the things that pretty much resonated with me, along with being involved in activities within your school and kind of not necessarily checking that box, but being an active participant within those organizations. So I think that's really good. I know we have some questions in the queue that came through, and I'll kind of throw that out to the panel, which kind of some of you mentioned already. It's which conventions do you recommend and which ones have you gone to?
I'll start with the second question that was asked. For P1s, what's the best option to start with? Is it community pharmacy or hospital setting? In terms of residency, from what I've heard, definitely getting your foot in the door in terms of a hospital inpatient setting is really important. They definitely value that because like you're one step closer to kind of being a clinician in a sense. And they really value that experience. It doesn't mean that community pharmacy doesn't look good on paper or anything like that. It's good to get any experience that you can in the pharmacy world your first year. But I've definitely heard that they do view inpatient experience a bit more favorably than community. So I hope that helps.
Yeah, we're bouncing that right back to the panelists. I know we kind of jumped to the community setting, the hospital setting, which was great advice to give to the audience there. But do any of you, I think it was Arturo that maybe you mentioned like getting yourself involved and going to conferences, and I think you mentioned mid-year or what are the ones that you specifically recommend, and which ones have you gone? Have any of you gone to any? I know despite COVID. But the virtual participation there. So I don't know if any of you want to speak to that and maybe add in a little twist with respect to, we are in a virtual arena, versus going physically, like maybe some of the graduates that you've seen go before you.
So yeah, mid-year would be the conference I would recommend. It is going to be virtual this year. It's at the end of the year, but you can Google that and see that. And that's just, if you want to do residency, I think that's a good place to start and just get your name out there and meeting people. And almost like Dr. Martinez mentioned, the word that stuck out was professionalism. And just keep in mind that think of everything as a potential interview, if you will. So the way my school does is after the first year, you do a community rotation. And then after second year, you do a hospital rotation. In first year, I was working with a specific company that it was okay, but I didn't really want to be there long term. Well, I specifically chose for community rotation during the summer, a company that I did think better of. And so even though it's rotation, but you want to perform well, you make contacts and you're there face to face. They get to see you, you get to see the company. And by the end of the rotation, I got offered a position with that company. So that helped me transition to that company. So everything, the way she said, professionalism is whether at school and professors, and going back to it's a small world. Pharmacy is a small world. People know people, and you get it, you work long enough, and there's just all these contacts that it was like, oh, I knew that person from here and that person from there. And every chance to interact with someone, meet someone, I mean, that it can count for something later down the road. So just always take advantage of those opportunities.
Yes, definitely agreed. I do want to take a moment to talk about, when you look at this slide, you could look at all these different opportunities as maybe two different paths. One is a residency. You can think of it as a clinical residency. Under that umbrella of clinical residency, you could eventually end up as an ambulatory pharmacist, an investigational drug pharmacist, specialty pharmacy, or being a clinical specialist in pediatrics, cardiology, emergency medicine, anything like that. You might not know that right now that you want to do that, but I would say set your sights on a good foundation, a good clinical foundation for your residency outlook. And then it'll fall into your lap. You will figure it out as you go as to what your passion is, what you're excited about to go to work to every day. The other arm that I do want to touch on is community pharmacy. For those who are interested in being a community pharmacist, I think that's a fantastic position, a fantastic career, because you are face-to-face with patients, making those connections. In clinical pharmacy, you're kind of behind the computer, behind the walls. You do have some patient interaction, but not at all like the connections you make in the community. So just wanted to touch on that. For those who are interested and have that desire to be your community pharmacist, what kinds of things should they be doing in their first through fourth year?
So my personal goal at the moment, I kind of go back and forth between community and hospital. But I'll want to set myself up for whichever route, I decide to go with. But I think with community pharmacy, getting some experience, having a job in community pharmacy, and practicing your counseling, of course, under your pharmacist supervision, but not being afraid to counsel patients and learn from your pharmacist, and getting involved in any community projects going on. Like there's a lot of, I think someone mentioned before, like vaccine clinics and things like that. If I think of anything else, I'll chime back in.
Yeah, definitely. And you had mentioned about just getting that experience. And although you may not want to be a community pharmacist, maybe that's not your complete goal, but having that experience will give you a different lens to look at things through. It'll give you that business perspective. It'll give you that purchasing, buying, that record keeping experience that you will need maybe later on if you fall into pharmacy administration, like what Gilbert would like to do. So even though you may not eventually want to be a community pharmacist, maybe that is your goal, but somewhere between your first, second, and third year, maybe you should get that experience because it'll help you later. All righty, we're just going to shift gears now, unless someone has something burning to add with the traditional route. Otherwise, we're going to shift over to the non-traditional route. So we're going to look at those careers where maybe it doesn't fall into those two arms of residency, clinical experience, as well as community pharmacy. So that could be those who are interested in academia. Maybe they want to go into research and do a fellowship. Regulatory is an interesting one that not too many people want to come out and lay down the law in pharmacy, but maybe they want to go further and do pharmacy law. Or different things like nuclear pharmacy or go into industry. So let's talk about that. Somewhere between your first and fourth year, what kinds of things should we be doing to be able to have that as our outlook?
So I think one critical thing is really try to talk and get to know your professors, because a lot of them have a lot of kind of like these niche, like non-traditional experiences, and they might be able to provide a lot of insight to these different experiences that they have. Like I know one of my MedChem professors, she has, I think, a bit of background on like nuclear pharmacy. So it was interesting hearing during class, like what she had to say about it. And I know she does a lot of research and yeah, just like all these different like things that I'd never really thought about before. So it was interesting hearing her experience, but even reaching out to them privately through email, like setting up a meeting with them would, be really helpful if something strikes your interest that they talk about. So I would definitely recommend that, especially early on. It's a really good way to also start making connections.
I would like to add to that as well. I think one thing that's important, obviously depending on school basis, but a lot of orgs such as like AMCP, the managed care, at USC, we also have it's called SIA, a Student Industry Association. So becoming very involved in those organizations that focus around some of these specific non-traditional routes, I think is the easiest and most accessible way to gain experience and knowledge in these areas, especially if you know nothing about it. Like going into pharmacy school, I knew nothing about managed care, for example, and I was starting from blank, and I just wanted a foundation, and I came into pharmacy wanting to learn more and more about different areas, especially in non-traditional routes. So joining like AMCP, the Academy of Managed Care Pharmacy, not only taught me a lot of what managed care consists of and what a career like that entails, but there's different opportunities within these orgs, such as like P&T competitions that you could participate in, that you could put on your resume or your CV that'll help you land some of these internships during the summer, especially for like industry and managed care. A lot of those opportunities and internship programs occur during the summer. So I would say just becoming involved in that, just to learn more. And if that's something that catches your eye, and once you learn more about it, you want to become more heavily involved in, then there's those opportunities for leadership experiences, right? And not only that, but like Joanna mentioned, like networking. A lot of these orgs have a lot of networking events where they invite practicing professionals from different pharmaceutical companies or managed care companies. They invite them over, whether it be virtually or in person, in a panel setting, or just to get to know their students and provide those opportunities, because you never know who's going to be hiring, right? So if you go to a panel and you reach out to someone and form a personal connection with them, that could very well be your foot in the door. So I highly recommend getting involved in some of these non-traditional route focused organizations on campus.
One of the other things I wanted to mention, just going back to research, I think you could definitely get into research at any point of your pharmacy career. It could be formal, it could be in a position. Sorry, my phone is ringing. It could be in a position where it's a formal research position, but it could also be something that you volunteer for. So many residency programs, their residents are constantly doing research. And in that research, they're working very hard to compile all that data. You could volunteer and be a volunteer person who will assist this clinician on their research. I know in my past experiences at other institutions, when I was the residency program director, our residents would always have volunteers come and basically collect their data for them. Eventually, when they did a poster presentation, not only did the resident get the recognition because it was their work, but it was also the volunteer who was a pharmacy student. So that pharmacy student, if they were at that convention, they were able to present the poster with the resident. And how phenomenal is that, you as a student being able to have your name on a poster? When you go on for those job interviews, you could say, oh, I didn't have a formal job in research, but this is what I've done so far. I was a volunteer. I was able to gather this data, and this is where we presented it at. So there's always opportunities out there. We just have to seek them out. All right. Anything additional that we would like to touch on for the non-traditional route? Okay, great. We're just going to slide over to that undeclared individual. And that's okay. If you are the person who comes into pharmacy school and realizes that, yes, I want to be a pharmacist. Well, I didn't realize that there's all these different opportunities. I thought that I was just gonna, go and work at a hospital or go and work for one of a chain pharmacies. And then you realize that, hey, I could be working for the Board of Pharmacy. I could be a veterinary pharmacist. I had no idea. Well, that's okay. We're gonna tell you how to figure that out and how to get experiences so you could help decide which way you want to go. So anyone would like to jump in on what we should be doing during our first, second, third, or fourth year?
So I think everything that we kind of discussed still applies here. Definitely making those connections. Like Gilbert was saying, really get involved in student organizations. I think that's really important for trying to figure out what you want to do. Another interesting thing that my school made me do was during my P1 year, they had us each take a quiz on APHA. And like based on like your values and the things that you like would like to experience as a pharmacist, it'll like tell you like, oh, you know, maybe you're best suited for this type of pharmacist, or maybe this type of pharmacist. Like I think I got like a community healthcare center pharmacist as my like primary recommendation, which I thought was interesting. And then it goes on to tell you what those pharmacists do. And if I find the link, I can try to put it in the chat. So that way, if students are interested, you can definitely click and try to take the quiz. I took it several times. So I think that's one way, and getting involved in networking, I think can help.
Yeah, definitely. Each school has multiple orgs that you can get involved with that focus on specific areas, and that can give you a brief kind of introduction at them. But it also makes those connections of if you can go volunteer in specific areas that connect with those orgs. In addition to rotations or volunteering, the schools usually have many contacts, and if there's something that you're interested, go take that opportunity to go, like what's been said, it gets your foot in the door of getting to see what that career path is like, and it also introduces you to that company as well, in case if you do like that. And specifically like community pharmacy, for example, from the smaller drive-through community pharmacies compared to grocery store community pharmacy compared to independents, they're all different. So, even within each one, there's different caveats, but take the opportunity while we are students to see the different opportunities that will be in front of us, because it's a powerful degree that we're going to have, and there's just so many options we can do with it.
So I know we talked about extracurriculars and like organizations, but I'm not sure if everybody's like pharmacy program looks like, but there are also electives you can take that can be more specialized. For my program specifically, like they offer like a residency elective where they try to get you kind of set up for a residency. There's also like a critical care elective, and then there might be electives out there that focus on like biologics that are kind of more like going into specialty pharmacy. So kind of just researching what kind of electives there are out there, depending on what year program you're in, whether it's like a 3-year or 4-year program, you might not be allowed to take those electives until maybe your 2nd or 3rd year. So I would recommend talking to like upperclassmen and just asking them what kind of electives they've taken. I know there's many that I didn't hear about until, I kind of asked around. And then also in your workplace, especially if you work in the hospital, just asking some questions about opportunities that you have 4th year, and asking about some of those rotations, because there might be some unique ones that you haven't thought about that you might want to take that can get you some exposure to something that you might end up being interested in. But I think it's completely okay to not know like which route you want to go. I think this is why I love pharmacy, is that there's just so many options, and it's okay because you might, graduate, maybe you won't get that residency that you wanted, but you might get another job and you might love that, role that you have there. And then you might get your foot in the door somewhere else. And there's just like endless possibilities, which is great.
I would like to add one last thing to this topic as well. So a lot was said about reaching out to professionals, whether it be in a work setting or even upperclassmen. I know a lot of programs have it, but a lot of programs have like mentorship programs. And I know it, we get, at least at my school, we get, constant emails about different mentorship programs, and it could seem, a little tedious, especially with all the workload we have academically. But especially if you find yourself in a, kind of a lost or undeclared position, these mentorship programs help a lot. I signed up for a couple my first year, one with a practicing professional, and then another one with an upperclassman, a P3 or a P4. I found those very useful just because, I could use that mentorship program to ask all the questions I wanted to ask. setting up meetings with these people and, kind of picking their brains on whatever, that upperclassman is looking to go into and or whatever the practicing pharmacist is currently working on. So I would definitely promote, being involved in these mentorship programs and forming those connections, but it's an easy way to do it. Especially when when the mentors are, open ears to everything and, they make it very welcoming when it comes to seeking out information and like I said earlier, picking their brains.
That's fantastic. I just want to add for the undeclared student, and I would say for almost any other student, but mostly the undeclared, I would really push yourself out of your comfort zone. So if you think that, I really like, let's say, regulatory. I know that I'm probably going to like that, but probably ambulatory pharmacy, I don't want to have to talk to patients, and you already have this idea in your head that you're not going to like it. I challenge you to force yourself to be in that kind of experience, to really test yourself to see if you're not going to like it. You never know, you might fall in love with it. And so I would hate the undeclared student to close doors on different careers without trying it or being able to experience it firsthand, because you never know, you might have that one experience where you realize, hey, this is really great. This is completely different than what I had thought it would be. You may come into contact with a pharmacist that really inspires you. You may come into a contact with a pharmacist that explains what their life is like. Because yes, we're going to come into this career for the rest of our lives, but we also have to think about our home life. How does that fit into the future that you want to have? How does that fit into the lifestyle you want to have with your family at home? And how do you want to live out the rest of your life? So really, the career that you decide to choose may end up choosing you. So definitely don't close the door on any opportunity. So that would be my advice for the undeclared student, no matter which year you're in, 1st through 4th. Okay, so we've gone through our 3 main topics. So what we're going to move to is what we call our rapid fire round.
All right. So this is very exciting. I'm sure everyone, just like me, really enjoyed the conversation earlier with the questions, the Q&A, and enjoyed reading your questions from the chat and getting those answered. So in this time, what we're going to do is we're going to do something pretty unique where I'm going to ask questions to our student panelists. And the challenge here is that they have to answer this within less than 4 words, 4 words or less. Yesterday, I told them 3 words or less, but we'll go ahead and add 1 more. So we'll go ahead and get this started. And we're going to start off with Nohemi. And the first question is, what motivates you?
Helping patients and family.
All right, Gilbert.
Diversifying the pharmacy profession.
Joanna.
My family sacrifices.
Arturo.
My daughter, Sienna.
All right. So our next question for the panelist is going to be, why pharmacy? Well, we'll start off with Joanna.
Helping people.
Gilbert.
And my
sorry. Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, it was more than 4 words anyway. I'll just leave it at that.
Helping people. Okay. Gilbert.
Endless amount of opportunities.
Nohemi.
You'll never be stuck.
Arturo.
It makes me happy.
Awesome. All right. Our next question. If you had an unlimited amount of resources, whatever it is, financial or any resources that you're needing, what type of projects or research or interest would you take on? Would you lead? Would you get started? And we'll start off. I'll let you think about that for a second. And we're going to start off with Arturo.
Underserved minorities.
Gilbert,
Economical gap in healthcare.
Joanna,
Preventing disease in Latinos.
Nohemi,
It's hard to put this into 4 words, but outcomes of patients when a pharmacist is present.
awesome. All right, next question. What advice would you give your P1 self? Okay, and we'll start off with Joanna.
Relax and breathe.
Gilbert,
Break the mold.
Arturo,
You're where you belong.
Nohemi,
Prioritize your mental health.
all right, I think we have one more question for our student panelists. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? We'll start this one off with Gilbert.
Representing pharmacy in hospital administration.
Joanna,
Becoming an ambulatory pharmacist.
Nohemi,
Becoming an important mentor to future Latinx pharmacists.
Arturo,
Serving my community.
awesome. These were all great. And these were the questions that we had for our student panel. And just, I know we're going to get some questions here for our moderators. I'll let us go through that. And then I'll close it off with why we asked these particular questions. Gilbert?
Okay, I'll be moderating this section. First question, what motivates you? We'll start with Dr. Serrano.
What motivates me is this exactly right here, is the students and helping you guys grow. I know that's supposed to be in 4 words, but this is exactly it.
Dr. Martinez.
Wow, Dr. Serrano and I think alike, and it's seeing you guys excel, seeing the future, seeing you guys excel. Sorry, 4 words.
We'll let that one slide. All right, next question, why pharmacy? Let's start with Dr. Martinez this time.
Yeah, I said direct impact and influence on lives.
Dr. Serrano.
I would say the science. The science is what got me into pharmacy.
Okay, thank you. Next question we have for you too. What's the best advice someone gave you during pharmacy school? We could start with Dr. Serrano again.
Okay, so not going to be 4 words, but it was keep your eye on the prize. So it was basically stay focused. If you know you want to be an ER pharmacist, then continue to work towards that. Try and align what you can to work towards that and make it happen.
Thank you. Dr. Martinez.
Learn it to teach it.
Thank you. Our 4th and final question for you moderators is, where do you see yourself in 5 to 10 years? Dr. Martinez, you can start this one.
All right. So apply my knowledge and skills to inspire and impact the entire population.
Dr. Serrano.
Oh, wow, this one's hard. I would really like to say, relaxing on a beach somewhere, but the core of me is that I'm very driven in pharmacy. I see myself doing exactly this, making sure that we are growing students, we are growing NHPA, we are here for the Hispanic population. That's what I see myself doing.
Awesome. Good deal, guys. And so the main take home from this, for the audience and for our panelists, is that we've asked some questions to kind of keep us grounded, remind us, why we chose pharmacy, to remind us what motivates you and to keep you going through the challenging times. Celebrate the wins, and during the opportunities, persevere And those are just reminders. And then for the future, you know, you're preparing a vision. If you had unlimited funds, if you could do that, put that in front of you, hang it right in front of you, so that just like Dr. Serrano mentioned, that's the prize at the end. Keep your focus and keep going with that vision. So that's the reasoning behind a lot of the questions that we asked you guys today.
Yeah, this was really, really great and fantastic, but we do want to open it up to some of our guests today. And please feel free to unmute yourself if you have a burning question, and we will be happy to answer the question. Even if someone from our panelists has a question for either Dr. Martinez or myself, we'd be happy to discuss.
I do have a question. So I'm a P1 student, and then the most important thing to me, like as a family person, and I really want to be successful, I always got to the point of lose of time management. What is the best way to keep on track of time and time management tips?
So,
I'm sorry, you can go. Oh, I was just gonna say, for me, using something like Google Calendar to really track deadlines, that was something that really helped, especially at the beginning of each semester, looking at each syllabus for each class and writing down deadlines. That's, I think, a really, really important skill to really be able to plan ahead. And then using my calendar to mark anything else that comes up, whether it's like through work or organizations, things like that. And then also using a planner. I really like my planner. It was really hard for me to get used to using it at first, I'm not gonna lie, but now it's like my best friend through Appies. It's been great. So I would definitely recommend it.
So I was going to say, like I mentioned before, first year can be very overwhelming. The workload is a lot. So I think one of the things to prioritize is finding out a study method that works for you. I didn't find that till my second semester. For me personally, I used to have to write everything out in undergrad. That's the way I would just learn it. And I found that that wasn't going to work for me in pharmacy school because there's, you know, the course load is a lot, the material is a lot. So I found that working with another student helped me kind of talking things out, learning through teaching. I feel like there's probably some evidence behind how, you know, when you teach it to somebody else, it's a higher level of learning. So just kind of finding your best like study method and taking breaks. And it might help to study with other people because then you're not, you know, by yourself and it doesn't feel as overwhelming, but just finding like the best way that you learn and figuring it out and knowing that you have enough time to do all these things that we talked about, like research and electives and shadowing, all those things. Like you'll get there. You don't have to do it all your first year. Like it's okay to not have that all figured out right away. And yeah, like she mentioned before, like finding like a way to keep track of your dates, whether that's like a like something like a written calendar or maybe setting like reminders on your phone. And I would say like if you have an assignment and you have time to knock it out, don't put it off, just go ahead and knock it out while you have the time, because you can put things off and then it can all pile up and it can seem kind of overwhelming. So just if you have a little bit of a break, stay focused and kind of get it done.
Yeah, it's kind of what's been said is I incorporate Google Calendar as well, and you have it on your computer, you have it on your phone, you're always checking that. But during my P1 year, we were in person, so you know, you hear what's going on with everybody. P2 year was all online, and so we would send out due date reminder lists weekly to the entire class. Well, that got me to start keeping, it's kind of an old school method, but I literally create a Word doc and just keep track of everything that's due, of what class, what day, at what time it's due. And as I complete things, I like highlight it out. And so even though we're back in person now, I still do that. And it's something I check every day of like, okay, what's the highest priority now? What needs to get done? And yeah, do whatever you can to keep track of everything, but just give yourself little tricks like that. So I think those are great ideas.
Sounds great. Any additional questions? We
Thank
still
you
have a
so
few
much.
minutes. No additional burning questions? Well, I will tell you that we're always here for advice, for mentorship, to bounce ideas off of. I'd be happy to connect with any of you. I'm sure I'll speak for Dr. Martinez. I'm sure Dr. Martinez will, since it seems like we are both motivated by making sure our students succeed, as well as the students on this panel. I think we are all leaders in NHPA, and we thank you for joining us tonight. I do want to remind you to connect with us on social media. Please remember to go to our website and also connect with your colleagues to encourage them to become members of NHPA, because the more people we have as NHPA members, the more we can have an impact to the Hispanic population. So I do want to provide you some dates to remember. We will have a CE coming up for Pharmacist. That is November 17th, looking at the impact and management of diabetes. We do have another student webinar that's going to be in December. So make sure to mark your calendars for that. And we're going to talk about how to have an application that stands out from the crowd. So whether that's for residency, for a job, for an internship, a volunteer program, anything like that. We are also celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month. We have 2 webinars, one on October 13th as well as October 14th. The thing about these webinars, and the reason why these are unique, is that it's not only geared towards professionals, but it's primarily geared towards patients. So if you are at a rotation site, encourage patients to jump on these webinars and be able to understand the myths and truths of COVID-19 vaccinations and how it's really affecting our Hispanic communities. We're going to have one in English and one in Spanish. So like I said, we want as many patients as possible. This will be really not at a professional level kind of presentation, but really geared towards patients. So please try and get the word out for us, and let's all celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month. So with that, we'll be saying good night, and we thank everyone for joining, especially our student panelists, our student leaders, and Dr. Martinez.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great evening.